Ebusia former kwaba edeba Ghanatube so ensem a ekoso ewo omanimo onsa ebeka na sene amatena se amaja akonye se ensem a ekoso makwa boaboa ebi ano ede apa ebusia for ye ensem no entempa no ye beka kotie ensem no na yaba na matwa so ede amount.
Let's go straight into the conversation now and let's speak to our expert guest who's joining us. He's a data analyst and then also someone who's been very keenly following the numbers over the last few years up until now and will tease out a number of the key issues that should be of concern to you as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
And as someone who just loves working with numbers, I'm sure this is a comfortable space for you as we discuss the Ashanti region. First of all, for those who are just watching at home, look at this map. It just gives you a clear picture. The blue line talks about the NPP, the red line talks about the NDC, the region we are focusing on is the Ashanti region. But first, let me ask your initial thoughts of how the Ashanti region has played in Ghana's politics. Why do they seem to almost always vote for the NPP? What about the NPP, entices the Ashanti region, for which reason many just say it's their World Bank?
I think it's based on history. Okay. Historical antecedents proves that the NPP is, and how the NPP was formed. I mean, it's based on historically how they have voted, and you can see that they have been able to contain the NDC historically when it's coming to voting. Now you look at the graph that the graph that we have. You can see that in 1996 the NPP did 65%, one of their lowest, but NDC did 32.8%. You can see that since then they have not been able to improve upon their margins beyond 30% within that space of period. And so the NPP has to be commended for being able to keep the NDC at bay. In fact, they have not even been able to cross 30%, the 30% mark.
Ever since 96.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they were only able to do 28 in 2012. And even that one, 2012 was a general performance improvement for the NDC across the country. Okay. So it was not, it's not restricted to
just the
Ashanti region.
Okay.
So you can see that across all constituencies, at that time, Professor Mills has passed on.
Okay.
And then John Dramani Mahama came in. Okay. So there was some sort of a sympathy vote across the country. So if you look at all performances across regions, across constituencies, where the NDC did very well in 2012, it's not only because they did well in Ashanti, but it's because countrywide there was a national support for the NDC. So I mean, you look at the trend and you just ask yourself, why is it very difficult for the NDC to make gains in the strongholds of the NPP? And let me add this, it is not only in Ashanti. The NPP has also sort of prevented the NDC from making gains in Eastern. They have not even added a percentage point since 1996 in both Ashanti and Eastern. So the strongholds of the NPP, it virtually has become a sort of a no-go area for the NDC.
Very strong.
Exactly.
Okay. And I can also tell from these numbers that the only time they actually, even the NPP, I should say, went above 80 was when one of their own, John Ejekum Kufuor, came as flag bearer of the party and led the party into its first victory. So that was in 2000 and the runoff. So in 2000 there was a runoff, and that was the only time he clawed 80%. Could you say it was because that was the first time the NPP as a party was even putting up a candidate from their World Bank or the stronghold? Could that be a factor?
No. So if you are analyzing the data, I mean, the runoffs are what we call outliers. Okay. They don't follow the general trend, because in a runoff, other parties are prevented from running. So you are having just the first two main parties who are running. And so because of that deciding factor, that is why they had the 80.5%. But it is more important to look at the numbers without a runoff.
Okay.
So Agyekum Kufuor did 74.8% into that is his natural showing at the first time.
Okay.
So you can see that apart from that, the 80 is it's a very high figure, but it's because of the runoff. That is why it shoot up like that. So I would say that the NPP has hovered between around, let's say, 70 to 76. That has been the range within which they have hovered. But you can see that even in their lowest ebb of 2012, they still managed to cross the 70% mark, which is something that they have to be commended. And so in terms of performance, you can say that as far as Ashanti region is concerned, the NPP has some way, somehow been able to maintain their own. Yes.
And maybe you want to land on your point before I come in, but then the question I would want to ask is, going into 2024, so this is historical data.
Exactly.
Going into 2024, they are promising to even go past John Agyekum Kufuor's runoff number of 80.5%. They are promising, or the vice presidential candidate from the Ashanti region, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, is promising to get the party 85% of votes. You say they have been able to hold their own and keep the NDC at bay. Can they claw up to 85%?
No, it's not possible.
Really?
Never.
Why so?
It is. They are not even going to reach 80%. It's not possible.
Okay.
The best they can do is around 75%. Okay. And if you do 75% in Ashanti, I mean, it's a sizable lead.
Yeah, exactly.
The reason I'm saying it is not possible is that there was something in the 2020 data. Okay. And it shows that generally, even across the country, voters were not, they gave an average pass mark for the first term of the government. Ashanti region was not overly enthused. If you look at the numbers, if you look at growth rates in valid votes, the NPP got just 9% of growth in valid votes.
Okay.
In 2020.
Okay.
The NDC got 29% of growth in valid votes. But actually, in nominal terms, the NDC had 149,000
okay.
of actual valid vote increase over the 2016 performance, and the NPP had 155,000. So it was a very close contest. And so when it comes to increase in nominal vote, the first sign in the Ashanti region is that the NPP support base actually didn't show up. Right. And you can look at one factor is also the percentage. Every region contributes to the national pool. Yes. So every region has their percentage contribution. Historically, Ashanti region contributes around 19.2%. 19.2%
total votes.
Yes.
That's what the Ashanti region
contributes to the national pool.
Right.
Okay. Right. In 2020, they did 18.7. They did below. And it's just because the growth rate of the NPP dropped. The support from their core members didn't come out as much as they wanted. So if you are looking across the numbers, apart from 2012, where they did low because of Professor Milpart, 2016, 71%. It's one of their lowest, apart from 1996.
So you mean that's 2020?
Yes,
71%.
Yes, 71. Apart is their lowest, apart from what they had in 2012 because of the sympathy votes that enjoyed. So 2016 was not necessarily a good year for the NPP. Yes. So the idea that we can claw more than 80%, I mean statistically that is not possible.
Statistically, it's not possible.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Now we'd also want to focus on the underlying factors that will let people come out to vote or not. I'm sure that one of the key considerations have always been the bit of the way people feel, the way the electorates feel, their economy or their individual economies in the general economy. if they do not seem to agree with what the party is preaching, could that be why there is the apathy voters, some have called it, that, well, we support you, but instead of voting for the opposition, we might as well not vote at all, which then means that your numbers will reduce. Is that one of the factors?
Yes, exactly. I mean, generally, Ghanaians look at economic conditions when they are voting. Okay, forget about other factors. I mean, bread and butter issues are important to Ghanaians. And even in deep blue regions like Ashanti, where you know that historically they will do well because it's their stronghold, you are going to see the margins reduce. You are going to see the margin for the NPP become a bit contrived, because, I mean, when people look at their lives, they ask themselves, I mean, road constructions, the Sofala interchange, these related issues, and there is a general sense of belief within the Ashanti region that they have not benefited that much from the ruling government in the ways that they anticipated. And so I expect a relatively subdued performance, even though Matthew Opoku-Prempeh is the running mate coming from Ashanti region. I still expect a bit of a subdued showing in the Ashanti region for the NPP. As I said, I will give them an upper limit of around 75% and maybe a lower limit of around 70%.
It was quite surprising, and this is to buttress the point you made, that even the former leader of the NPP caucus, that is Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, who is a proper, true Ashanti, had people, hoot at him because they thought that as an NPP MP, as the leader of the majority in parliament and someone who is from home, he was not even able to champion developmental, causes even in his constituency. So there was a time he went to the constituency and they were hooting at him, and that was more like the genesis of the Ashanti voter coming out to show their displeasure with the government. And quickly, the NPP as a party needed to sit up and do, and get a number of things right. So we would also now dive into a number of the dynamics.
Yo ebusiafo ya kwakotie ensem no aba me gidi se utie ni ye pa ubetimi eja comments no ama me ewo comment section na mejebore akenkan ni nyina ede amo ansa na medesa edition beba ewiye na ebusiafo me sure se na first time I hwe me ewo channel we so a ebusiafo subscribe na hit notification bell no efa mama for more and quick updates. After remember we fi say obe like na wasan share ye videos ni nyina amaye Ghanatube so mo amodofo snowing ni sisi ade makram.